Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm very excited to bring to you Adam Torres, and let me tell you a little bit about Adam. He is a host of the Mission Matters series of shows, ranked in the top 2.5% of 3.4 plus million podcasts globally. As co-founder of Mission Matters, a media, branding, and book publishing agency, Adam is dedicated to amplifying voices of entrepreneurs, entertainers, executives, and experts. An international speaker and author of multiple books on business and investing, his advice is featured regularly on major media outlets such as Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Fox Business, and CBS, just to name a few. We're going to talk about a subject that you all know I love, and that is why everyone should start a podcast. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Adam Torres. Adam, so glad to have you on today.
Oh my gosh, Vicki, I'm so happy to be on this show. I saw you have like over 500 episodes, and I love meeting, like, you are a real deal podcaster. To me, that's my sport. That's my lifeblood. That's what I do. And I love to meet a fellow podcaster putting out those numbers. So congrats and thank you.
Thank you. So your numbers are highly impressive, but hopefully I will get to that point at some point in my
It's a
career
marathon.
here.
This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. I'm 9 years in. Come on, we're good.
So me only 3.
There you
All
go.
right. So I always start with 2 easy questions. And the first question is, what part of the country do you call home? Where do you live right now?
So I call downtown Los Angeles home, and I live right across from LA Live, like, so by the whole, I'll always call it the Staples Center, but I think it's crypto.com or crypto something now. And but I'm right there in the heart of everything in downtown LA.
I've spent lots of time there. I was worked for UPS as a project manager. A lot of my projects were that West Coast. And then I was a region advisor for Toastmasters International, and my territory was the Los Angeles area. So,
I'm a big fan of Toastmasters. I made it to my CC, my competent communicator, if I'm saying it right still. I was a big fan of Toastmasters.
Yeah, now we've moved to the digital world now, so no more CCs, but
there's no more? Okay.
Yeah, so now it's all digital learning experience, and it's now my 28th year there.
Oh, you're still with Toastmasters?
I am. I actually
that's
am
amazing.
I'm running to be a international director position. In August is the elections for that. So, yeah.
Whoa, that's amazing. I love that. I love the organization. For anybody, I've always recommended it, and it's helped me through the years. Absolutely.
Changes lives. All right, so let's get into the topic of why everyone should start a podcast. So how has podcasting changed your life?
So I'll tell you one thing that, first off, I'll say that I didn't want to start my first podcast, just throwing that out there. Like the other co-founder, no, I didn't. I'm not a natural communicator in that sense. And I was not I didn't even know what it was. Like in the beginning, so we had myself and the other co-founder here, his name is Shirag Sagar. We co-founded a company together, and it was originally called Money Matters. And that was the brand brand. And I was a financial advisor. I was in corporate America. Just think of me
Mm.
as, you go to your local wealth advisor and, suit and tie, and you go talk to him once a quarter. That was me. I was your guy, right? So I was in that business almost 14 years before moving into
Mm.
media now full time. But at this time, before the podcast, I had we published a book, myself and Shirag, and we were out there promoting it. And one day Shirag comes up to me and he says, Adam, you need to start a podcast. I'm like, I'm not starting no podcast. You do it. I don't want to start. What is a podcast? I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, no, we got to. It's going to help us sell more books or this or that or whatever. And I'm like, first off, I don't know how, right? Like, how am I
Yeah.
supposed to do this? And he's like, Google it, whatever. And so my first podcast, I probably spent all of 10 minutes setting it up, if that. I went online, I Googled it. I set it up on a free platform, which I, in retrospect, wish I would have paid for a better one. But I set it up on a free platform because I was just like, okay, what is this thing? And then I said, well, Shirag, now that you made me start this, guess who I'm interviewing first? So
Payback.
basically, my first podcast episode was just a conversation that we recorded, myself and him, and put it up there. I mean, my first 300 episodes, maybe 500 actually, were not. You have your nice, beautiful, fancy microphone over there, Vicky, and you have your
Hmm.
earpiece and all this. I think my first 300 to 500 episodes were all recorded on an iPhone. And I didn't even have AirPods. I don't even know if they had them back then, but I had just a
That's
corded
what I did
headphones.
too.
And what the strange thing was is that we built an audience from it. It was the strangest
Yeah.
thing ever. I couldn't believe that people listened. I didn't know quite understand, because to me, I didn't really understand the art of it. I didn't understand what it was to do an interview. I didn't understand any of that. To me, I was just recording
Mm.
conversations and putting them up, and we didn't even edit
Yeah.
the first 300.
Yeah, but probably that's what attracted the people. I really think that the more conversational you
Mm,
have, the better. And even when I coach people in public speaking, that's what I always say. It's,
mm,
don't be doing a speech or a pitch, just have a conversation with
yeah.
people. That's more natural and more inviting and engaging.
Mm,
So you shared your story about your journey and the different pivots and different aha moments that you had, I
yeah.
guess. What are your tips though for entrepreneurs if they think, okay, I want to dip it? I mean, the way I
Yeah.
got into it is I actually did a Toastmaster project during COVID, and
Mm,
I was interviewing people that were shut in just like all of us were, and I enjoyed it so much I thought I should try to do a podcast on helping all these people who don't have training on leadership and public speaking any
mm-hmm,
longer. And I found somebody who could do the done for do it for you kind of method,
mm-hmm.
and 3 months later I had a podcast,
Wow.
and that was the best move I made. So, that's what I did, and we heard what you did. So, how
Mm-hmm.
do you advise people on how can they have maybe the top tips of starting a podcast?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that nowadays, the actual starting part, like the technical side, is really easy. I mean, it's even from when I started, it was pretty easy already. But now with AI and with some of the like platforms that are out there, it's just so easy to do. I think the number one thing that actually holds people back is they don't know, they feel like maybe they don't know what they're going to talk about. They're like, but yeah,
Mm.
I start one and maybe I have an idea for this and this, but then like how many episodes could I do? What I tell people is when you start going into development of the show, you really want to get to understand the psychology and really the business behind the fact that it's going to evolve over time. Like you don't
Yeah.
put so much pressure on yourself. Don't say I have to have this one idea and this is what the show's going to be about forever. Our show's evolved. We even changed the name. I told you before, it started as Money Matters Top Tips. Now it's Mission
Mm.
Matters. Like the entire brand evolved over time as I found my voice. So one of the key things here is that if you're just starting, or even if you've been on a show, it's going to take you time to find your voice. Even if today, so I have over 6,000 episodes under my belt. If I start a new show with a new niche and a new concept, and I want to explore it creatively, I'm starting brand new again. Sure, I have a certain
Mhm.
skill set now over time, but to find my voice within the context of that show, it's going to take some time. And now as a professional, I know to give myself that space and that time to let it evolve, because ultimately technology's easy, big deal. Distribution's easy, big deal. Getting guests on a show is easy, big deal. Like, all those things can easily be accomplished. And if you're having problems with any of the things I just mentioned, and you're like, wait, that's not easy. Sorry. Sorry, don't mean to insult you, but like, I mean,
It
chat
is.
GPT it up, Google it. I mean, whatever we want to do nowadays, throw up a smoke signal. I don't care what you gotta do.
Yeah.
But you can if you really want to launch a show, you can get all of those figured out. But I feel like what people don't talk about enough is the kind of like figuring out why and developing
Yeah.
themselves into somebody that's worth listening to. Like, ultimately, it's
Mm.
not about just
Yeah.
like, you got to make sure you're worth listening to, and that only happens over time, and that only happens with practice. That happens with
Mm.
doing things like you're doing, Vicky, like bringing out 500 plus episodes. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like, that's what happens. And then so as you're finding your voice, just understanding that this is truly a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's
Mm.
not a like the even just understanding the business of it. If you think about a podcast episode versus some other social media, you're on Instagram, somebody which I'm not against Instagram. For everybody listening, by the way, go follow me, ask Adam Torres. You'll see I put up content every single day on Instagram. So you'll see when you go there, and I spend a lot of time on there. That's the best place to reach me. But but speaking of the platforms of something like an Instagram or a TikTok versus a podcast, Instagram, if somebody likes a post or something, I mean, that took what, a millisecond? Maybe they read the caption, maybe not. Maybe they watched your video, maybe they
Mhm.
didn't. Podcast is completely different. If somebody watches or listens to your podcast and they spend 20 to an hour with you, 20 minutes to an hour with you, some people 2 hours, that's equivalent to, I like to make the comparison, Vicky, of if there's 50 downloads on that episode, that's equivalent to you gave a keynote to 50 people. If there's
Yeah.
100, that's equivalent to 100 speaking in front of 100 people, because it's a different type of dynamic. And the opportunity cost of somebody listening to your podcast is that they didn't watch a Netflix episode that cost
Mhm.
50,000 or $500,000 to produce that episode. So think about it. Somebody gave you their time for 20 minutes to a couple hours, instead of watching a Netflix episode or some other episode. So that's a very intimate experience. And not to mention that many people wear AirPods or something that's actually in their ear. So I like to think of it as you're literally sitting in somebody's ear canal. Like, come on, like, it doesn't get more intimate than that, right? So,
That is true.
I mean, we're not talking orifices here, but but it's literal. And then if you think
Yeah.
about where people listen to podcasts many times, they listen, they're at the gym, they're
Yeah.
in the car so they're maybe with their family. They're letting you into their lives during very intimate moments. Some people listen to them in bed, so technically you're kind of in bed with people and they're listening to. I mean, we're not into all that, but I know that sounds
Yeah.
strange, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
the
it's
pod.
true.
But the podcast is different. It's a different animal. And what happens here is, because of that, what happens is you can build a real connection with your audience. Like, think about what I'm saying. People are
Yeah.
taking you, they're listening in bed, they're listening in their gym, they're listening when they're on the ride to their office with their kids or wherever else they're driving to school. They're saying, oh, you should. So all of those different things are letting you in your life. So then it becomes a real relationship over time, and it
That's right.
becomes a one-to-many relationship. And the dynamic is so much different than other types of social media or media. Because even like a YouTube, you're watching it, so it's physical. I love YouTube too, by the way. So don't everybody's like, this guy's talking about YouTube. No, I love YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, of course, duh. But the main thing is that's like active, like you're looking at the video, so somebody has to concentrate. With a podcast, it's passive listening, so you're literally they're doing other things many times while listening, so they're really absorbing you even into their
Mm,
subconscious, your voice, your words, the
yeah.
conversation, even if they don't know all the time, because it's just going in the background. So it's a completely different way to make a connection with somebody, but it does take a little bit more time for some. Myself, it took a lot more time, I will say, and that's because of that nature of it being a passive listening experience and something that's kind of on in the background and otherwise. But
Mhm.
the benefit, though, is that your audience will be sticky. Like, they'll be sticky. They will know
Mhm.
you.
Me
They'll know
too.
they'll know your voice. They'll know you as soon as they hear you. Like, I've been many places when I'm doing something else and I say hi to somebody, and I've seen people jump, like literally jump, like, wait a minute.
I
And
know
I've
that
had this.
voice.
Yeah, and it cracks me up every time because they have that moment where it doesn't, like, their mind, it just doesn't make sense because they listen to you
Mm.
for so long. Then they see you in person and it's like they're listening to their podcast on their computer or their phone, but the person's actually right there. I know that sounds that sounds really weird, but if you're doing this long enough and you have that experience, or if you're listening to this and you've had that experience, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So one of the things that I discovered too is that having a book is another way to expand what reach you have,
Yeah.
and be so I'm in 6 compilation books where I did a chapter, and now I'm actually offering to my guests to be in a book of my own,
Mm,
because I think it's just another way to say, okay, you shared with this virtual audience, if you will, but some people still do love to, pick up a book. And I just find compilation books are a great way to just go from chapter to chapter to learn
hmm.
just a little nuggets to take you just a little bit further, but keep the conversation going, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, why do you think people should publish a book?
Huh. Well, I'm first off, I'm a huge fan of anthology series, and congratulations on participating in them. I think they're a great way to. I like to say when you're in an anthology, what happens is you have like X amount of authors. So the ones that I've participated in that we've published that have anywhere between 15 and 30 authors in it. I
Mm.
like to say we're bound by ink. There's just something about being, I mean, when you go out, I'll answer your question in two parts, but I'm actually a bigger fan of the anthology model than I am of even writing your own book, because the problem with
Mhm.
writing your own book, and by the way, we're publishers. Like, I publish books, we publish individual books for people we publish, which we obviously charge much more for that than an anthology. But I'll tell you why I'm such a huge fan of the anthology. When you and by the way, I've written both books, both types of books. So just for
Mhm.
some context for the audience, I've written multiple books that are on my own, and then I've also participated, and we've published over 400 authors in our anthology series. So over the last 9 years, so with maybe 18 to 20 volumes off the top of my head, with one that just came out this month, literally a couple days ago, our 11th edition of Mission Matters Business. But I bring up the anthology side, even with my bias, because of one big reason. When you stop promoting your book and you are an individual author, whether you're self-published or otherwise, then what happens to
It
it?
stops.
It
Yeah.
becomes an expensive paperweight. Most books are only going
Yeah.
to print, a couple hundred books. No offense to the author, but if their original intent was to get their message out there, then why wouldn't you then you want more people to see it. And so what I find
Mm.
many times is many authors, they write a book and they might be in love with that process, which is okay, and then they go right back into the mode of like the next book they're going to write, and that's okay too. It's okay. Now, whether they're
Mhm.
printed, if this is an exercise in creativity and just getting it out and you want to do that, great. But if you want to
Yeah.
reach an audience, if you want to make a difference with your message, you got to market. You got to market. So I
Yeah.
find that the anthology side of things, it really is a hack, because now you have many people promoting the same book, so that even when you're not promoting, guess what? Somebody else is.
Yeah.
Somebody else is. So you're printing more books. You're more likely to print more books. And then you also have the opportunity to really test your. So that's my first reason. The second reason is you have the opportunity to test your material. I find many times people go and they have this idea, they fall in love with it, right? And then they're all of a sudden they spend all this time, spend a year, maybe 30 to 50 grand writing this book, editing it, all this other stuff. They put it out, boom, they sell 100 copies. Great. Now what? And it's
Yeah.
like that might have been a great idea, but did the market want that idea? Number one, did the market want that idea specifically from you? So somebody like it's about what I look at the market. So what are people buying? So when I test a book or when I test an idea, if I might put out a podcast episode on it. I might do some other things. And
Right.
if there's no traffic, it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It just means that I don't have currently the audience that is willing to pay and exchange money for that idea through the form of a book or whatever it may be. So now my question to myself as an executive is, as a media executive is, do I want to spend the money and time to go find that audience, or does it make
Right.
more sense for me to cater to the audience I currently have? So that's where people they waste so much time, so much money. And whenever we publish a new author, they come in and they're like, okay, Adam, we want to do this. We give them the option. We're like, okay, do you want to be in the anthology series? This is what it entails. Or do you want to write your own book? This is what it entails. I'll tell you right now, you have for some of the authors, or would-be authors, I'll tell them, I'll say, you have no social media presence, you have no following, you have no platforms, you have nothing. Sure, we'll charge you 30 to 50 grand to do that book, but it's going to be an expensive paperweight unless you spend another 30 to 50 grand minimum on the promotion of that book.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, it's an expensive paperweight. Do the anthology
Right.
and start testing your ideas for like a fraction of the cost. So that's the
Absolutely.
entire, I feel, landscape on it. But in books in general, do it. You got to do it. Self-published,
Yeah.
any way you want to do it, do it. It's your calling card. It adds you. It opens up the world of
Credibility.
paid speaking. It opens up that world
Mm-hmm.
to you. Other people don't have books. You become a paid speaker. The moment I released my first book, I started getting paid speaking gigs, which was insane to me because prior to that, I was a financial advisor and I was used to paying. I had to like buy everybody a steak dinner to get everybody and so I could sell them some investments. I was the steak dinner guy or the whatever. Like I had to pay for all this. And now I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna pay me to come because I wrote this
I
little book?
know.
Get out of here. That doesn't even make sense. That's cool.
So cool. Oh my goodness, time's flying by. I have just a couple
Yeah.
questions. One is you mentioned that a lot of podcasters don't go past 20.
Yeah.
So when things get tough, how do you stay strong?
Well, for podcasting specifically, I like to build systems. So I don't I you gotta just like it's just something you're gonna do. Like if you're gonna launch it and if you really want to grow it, just put it in your head. It's 5 to 10 years. Fine. And then just
Mm,
put it in your head. Like I don't how I stay strong is I make sure there's something on my calendar. If there
yes,
wasn't if I didn't have 30 interviews booked this week, I would not be strong. I wouldn't
that's
do it.
right.
I mean, it's like anything else. Like, I mean, how is somebody in the
Mm,
gym shooting jump shots, right? Or making
that's
layups or
right.
doing what they got to do to practice their craft. You just model it into your life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even think about it from the standpoint of strength or weakness or anything like that. It's just, I have to eat dinner, don't I? I have to eat some food to maintain my living and I have to drink water. Well, I have to podcast. I just model it into my life.
Mhm. So very good. And, I find that that was one of the things that made it easy for me because I, right from the start, had a system. And
Mm,
so it never seems like it's a big burden to do things.
yeah.
I just know what I have to do and do it, get in
That's
my
it.
calendar.
If I had to think
And
about it, it wouldn't get done.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And then you have, wonderful guests like you that, you just look forward to being able to chat with. And I've now started doing multiple interviews with people because I had so much fun the first time that I just had to have them back again and again. Well, time has flown by, and we covered quite a lot today. And I'm sure there's people that may have more questions, maybe intrigued, excited, and want to know how can they connect with you. So I'm going to share, as always, a slide that has your contact information. It has, for those that are just listening, you know that you can go to my YouTube channel and get everything in the show notes. Go to Vicki Noethling. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. So the website is missionmatters.com. Again, missionmatters.com. On Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, TikTok. You can just search his name. And on YouTube, he's at Mission Matters Business. Again, at Mission Matters Business. That's initial capped. I'm going to turn it over to Adam. He's going to talk to you about his call to action today and what you can find if you go to his website and what he puts out there on social media. Yeah. So Adam, it's all yours.
Thank you. And what I'd say is everybody just follow me on Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. You're going to see a Linktree link there, and it'll have everything. We have a bunch of free downloads. If you're interested in podcasting, there's a free ebook. If you're interested in becoming an author, there's a free ebook. There's tons and tons of free content and things we give on there. So you can see our entire book series. You can see all the podcasts, everything. Just go to Ask Adam Torres on Instagram and shoot me a message. Let me know that Vicki introduced you to us.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for taking time for our conversation today. I just enjoyed it thoroughly and definitely aspire to be up there with you in the next 2 years, maybe, huh?
I love it.
Keep on going.
Keep watching. I love it.
Yeah. So as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.